Greetings, everybody. It's the Garlic Bread Warlord, Nick Alifi at a soccer over there. It is Monday. We have construction going on here at Casa de Alifi. We have all kinds of craziness happening, and we have a show for you. Guys, if you could refresh me just for a moment. I'm going to put you on the spot early. Joined today, as always, by Mr. John Nelson. And
check.
The man himself, Mr. Jason Longshore.
Hola.
Guys, how many titles do the English women have?
That would be 0
Settle.
world championships. They have a She Believes Cup.
Oh, She Believes Cup. Okay, all right.
They won that.
Have they? So when they have 0, that means they have never won the women's World Cup, correct?
No, they
I believe that would be
a
accurate.
final.
Okay, how can it come home then? I'm curious. They keep talking about bringing it's coming home.
Oh,
it's coming home.
You're
I
one
don't
of these
understand.
people too, huh?
FedEx.
I'm just
You're just like me.
I don't understand. I'm just
There's
throwing out
Jared.
there.
He chimes in on that.
And this whole thing about the English now being angry that the U.S. was doing some advanced scouting on at their hotel, thinking that it might be a little bit of funny business. I think they need to focus on a bit of their own deal, right? And stop calling in the media. I'll aim my guns now at the media. Are the U.S. women being too arrogant? Guys, remind me again how many titles the U.S. women have?
More than England.
More than England. Is it like 3? Do they have 3 stars above that?
C.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
Yes, and unlike Brazil, they don't let the men and women share the stars.
Yeah. Well, and so it seems to me, and maybe I'm just going out on a limb too far here because of exposure to industrial strength chemicals and God knows what else over here, that if you've won 3 titles, that you're allowed to be a little arrogant. I mean, we had no problem with this during the Yoga Bonita days with Brazil, right? When they were doing showboating all over the field. Wow, it's great, it's beautiful, it's awesome for the sport. But when it's people with ponytails doing it, then it's a big problem. Apparently, shocking and amazing. Let the women, the U.S. women, be arrogant if they want to be arrogant. They've earned it. If you're Ric Flair, styling and profiling, guys, where am I wrong on this?
You're not. That was the same thing we talked about after the win over Thailand. You know, if you're going to walk that walk, you've got to deliver. And Brazil's went through this. I think every major country's gone through this. England has gone through this plenty of times on the men's side. Everybody's out gunning for you. You know, people are going to call you names. People are going to take exception with whatever it is you do. Yeah, in the U.S., I think everybody loved the Joga Bonito campaign from Nike, but across South America, oh, no. They were planning how many times they were going to kick Ronaldinho for that.
And Jason, to get to something you talked about before, this team is cocky, and that's okay. It's okay that the English were cocky last year, but it's coming home thing. It always irked me because I just hate fun, I guess.
I like the song.
Mostly, yeah, and that's fine. I get it. It just always, I was like, it can't come home because it was never there originally. It visited once in 1966. But that being said, it was a fun campaign, and it was fun seeing England be good. It's one of those things. I think England's one of those countries that I think the World Cup is more fun when England is good and they're involved in it. Same thing with the U.S. women, but that cockiness is okay. The coverage being kind of arrogant, and Dan Wetzel's article over at Yahoo making fun of Phil Neville. I mean, the coverage is just, it's off the wall at this point, and I'm okay with it. Like, let them have fun, let them be cocky, because as you said, they're gunning for you anyway. So if you go out there with your shoulders slumped and your head down trying to be the Kawhi Leonard style of just kind of keep it quiet, they're going to come for you anyway. You might as well have fun with it, and especially when you have some of the personalities on that team, and not just Rapinoe. And we know, you could do an entire 2-hour thing just on Megan Rapinoe. But the rest of that team still has personality and swagger, and they're going to let it fly, and that's fine because they know the stakes. They're not ignorant to the stakes at hand.
You got to be yourself. I mean, if you're a team that has attitude, you've got to play and be there with that attitude. If you're Kawhi Leonard, you got to be Kawhi Leonard. And this team has attitude, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't mean that, people aren't going to gun for you. It doesn't mean that people shouldn't gun for you. It doesn't mean that people shouldn't call you arrogant. I mean, you gotta own it and just play and just be who you are. And that was the same thing I said after the Thailand match. It doesn't matter what people say. It matters who lifts the trophy at the end of the day. And the coverage side of it, there's multiple levels to it. I don't like the coverage in general from Fox being David versus Goliath, because I think
it's inaccurate.
No, it's not even that. I could care less about that. I mean, they're in the semifinals. It's pretty accurate. The problem is when all you do is diminish the competition when you lose, because everybody does at some point, you've diminished everything. And that's dumb. That's just a dumb attitude to have. You're not growing the game. You're not doing anything for it. I mean, Fox, I would assume, wants to broadcast more Women's World Cups. You're not going to make it a more watched product across the board when you say that only one team is the best in the world and nobody else has a chance. See, Gwen's a big fan of England and the Netherlands and Spain and Argentina and Italy and all the different countries that we've talked about all summer. It doesn't do the product, the brand, any of it good to say that, yeah, nobody else matters. I really think that is a bad approach. Columnists writing things about English tabloids, I mean, have fun. It's English tabloids. I don't think they take themselves too seriously. I would hope not. It's like getting into a fight with TMZ. Yay. That's going to go far.
And Harvey, you'd love that.
Yeah, it is what it is. I mean, the stuff about Phil Neville and making a big deal of it, you think Phil Neville's a dummy? Do you think Phil Neville doesn't know what he's doing? Do you think Phil Neville's stupid? Is that what I'm going to say? Phil Neville's not coverage.
I mean, you get to take some of the focus off of the players with what you're saying in press conferences. I mean,
it's what you said. No, it's what you said in a press conference. Well, let's not twist this then in a whole bunch of stuff about Phil Neville, because that's been dumb. Phil Neville is taking the heat in this game and turning it on himself. Who was the master at that? Jose Mourinho. Mourinho always did that. He made everything about himself. His players could just play. When he was good at it, it was really effective. Then he just became an angry man who just hated everybody, and that wasn't good. Phil Neville.
Super League titles.
Phil Neville's smart. Phil Neville knows exactly what he's doing. Is it a good look that U.S. soccer operations people were in the hotel and looking around at where they were going to book for after the semifinals? No, it's not a good look when it gets broadcast publicly. Does it happen for every team and in every tournament? Yes. We all know this. Phil Neville knows what he's doing. He's taking the heat off of his team. He's making it clear also, and this is the part that I really like, and it's something that I think was a challenge, and we'll talk about it when it comes to Italy next. I think for Italy, getting to the stage that they did was an accomplishment, and it was almost satisfaction to get where they did. For England, I think Neville has made it clear that, yeah, you're in the semifinals. No, that's not good enough. That's not what you're here for. It's not here to set viewing records and to be the darlings of the BBC for the summer. You're here to win the whole frickin' tournament. And that's the job now. It's not about just being happy to show up for the semifinal. It's about winning the thing. So I think there's been so much about this that has been wrong and just off. You're talking about a match between the defending champions, and you're talking about a match between the team that I think out of the four who's left has had maybe the best tournament. And and also a team that has had a pretty comfortable run to a semi, whereas the U.S. has not. I think you're talking about the best match in the tournament, but nobody's talking about the best match in the tournament.
Yeah, for Italy, to me, that is an accomplishment, right?
It is. No, it totally is. I didn't mean to diminish that by any stretch.
No. And I didn't view it that way. I didn't view it that way, Jason. What I'm saying is that for England, this is a stepping stone moment for them. You've made it here. Okay, great. Have a good time. Now it's time for that next step. I appreciate what Neville's doing. What bugs me about a lot of the stuff there's a lot that bugs me about what the media is doing with this game. But really what we should be focusing on right now is the fact that this is, in my opinion, the best game in the tournament, hands down. This is the one that should have the most hype going into it. To me, this is the final. Mm-hmm. And if somebody wants to call me and blast me and tell me I'm wrong and anything about the Netherlands or anything beyond that, great. By all means, feel free. But these are two teams in England and the U.S. that have the talent and the ability to smash anyone in front of them. So, if you want to go ahead and sleep on this game for some reason, enjoy. But I wish the media would do a little bit more piping of the game, not just, we're doing this one for 1776. Come on. It's fine and great that it's 4th of July week. Wonderful, but don't turn away from the fact that it's top tier talent that's going to be on display. Is anyone ready to put juice boxes on the game? Anybody on this show?
Wow, you're getting bold already. It's 12 minutes.
He's just really getting into it,
guys. I look, I've got housing construction to pay off here, man. We got to make moves.
Oh, I see where he's going.
We're throwing dice. We're doing it all. I'm willing to.
That is Italian as hell.
It was.
Look, man. We got to do what we got to do here. We have business to attend to, gentlemen. But I will say that I think that the monster might be a bit too big for England, and I think that the only thing that could trip up the U.S. in this is Jill Ellis, and if as long as her coaching is somewhat on point, the U.S. has the talent and the ability to get through this. I will say a 3-1 U.S. win because they can score early and it's going to steamroll. I'll say 3-1 because it's going to be that early goal, and then at that point the monster becomes even larger with that early goal.
Wow. For the record, our favorite juice box proliferators at Bet365 have the England women to win outright at plus 320, the draw at plus 250, the USA women to win outright at minus 118 to qualify. The USA women are at minus 250. England's women are at plus 175. Your total of 2.5 for the over-under. The under is at minus 143.
I think that's silly. I think it's going to be the over, and I think it's going to go to extra time. I think it's going to be really tight. There's no way in the world I would put one juice box on this game.
Nope.
I don't think there is a clear favorite here at all because I do worry about the legs for the United States going into this. I worry about a player that nobody's talked about in the United States, at least in this tournament, Lucy Bronze, who you combine Nikita Parris and Bronze on that side, and that's going to be a big, big challenge for the U.S., and Jill Ellis is going to have to think about ways to deal with that because Megan Rapinoe and Crystal Dunn on that side, you don't want Rapinoe tracking back a ton. You want her to stay up high. That means you're going to have Sam Mewis slide over if Mewis is in the team, and I would hope that she is. And you're still going to have a problem because Lucy Bronze is the best outside back in the world, and Nikita Parris has been one of the revelations of the tournament. I think that side of the field decides the match, and however Jill Ellis decides to deal with that challenge will likely decide how well the U.S. plays. because it's going to be that immense. And even if you take care of that, you've got talent like Fran Kirby and Ellen White and others around the field for England, and they just haven't really had to work too hard in the knockout round. I think they're going to be fresh, and I think they're going to be sharp. How will the U.S. come into this? And that's the biggest question. Are we going to see a weird lineup? Are we going to see a search for some sharpness, some freshness in the lineup? It's possible. That's my biggest concern, is that side of the field and England just being fresh for this match. I think it's extra time, and I think it's a toss-up.
Can I play devil's advocate to you?
Sure.
What I want to see is what happens if the USA hits in the first 10 minutes and England gets punched in the mouth for the first time in a while. As much as fresh as they are, we haven't seen them get punched in the mouth. I want to see how they react. And I think they'd react fine because of Neville. And we talked about this, about the mentality between France versus England and just the mentality side of it. I want to see how they react. Like, not even like I want to see USA steamroll. No, I want to see genuinely how they would react to being down 1-0. I want to see how they early. I want to see what it would look like, because I think it'd be really fun to watch, because I think they would just put the pedal down and be like, okay, cool, let's go. But
here's the thing, though. When you look at this, let's talk about the She Believes Cup match from March 2nd. The U.S. lineup that day, you had Adriana Franch in goal, and that won't be the case here. It'll be Alyssa Nair. Backline was Kelly O'Hara, Abby Dahlkemper, Tierna Davidson, Crystal Dunn. I would say 3 of the 4 starting in the backline. Mallory Pugh, Julie Ertz, Rose Lavelle was your midfield. Pugh won't start. It'll be either Mewis or Horan. Lavelle could start, might not start if Mewis and Horan come in. Frontline was Tobin Heath, Alex Morgan, Megan Rapinoe. That will likely be the lineup. U.S. scored first, 33rd minute, Megan Rapinoe. Steph Houghton equalized 3 minutes later. Nikita Paris gave England the lead in the 52nd. Tobin Heath equalized in the 67th. It was a 2-2 draw, and England ended up winning the whole tournament. I don't think they really worry about getting punched in the mouth. I don't think this is a team that hasn't done things before. They haven't lifted a trophy, but I don't think England is a team that's going to come in meek and as an underdog here. I think it's a toss-up. I don't think they're afraid of anything.
Now, for me, I'm going to go with England here, just really off of it being a toss-up. I was looking at it being the over, and I was looking at England, and I thought it might take a while. But for me, I was looking at the quick turnaround by comparison for the U.S. women's national team. That, for me, is one of the things that I've been staring at this entire time. And then you have Paris and bronze, and Jason, as you said, that side and who wins that battle. That's where that's where I've got my spot shadow. So I've got to go with the over. So I guess I'd go 2-1, but it's going to take a while, and it's going to go further than 90 minutes, I think.
Yeah, I think it's extra time, and I think it could be penalties, but it's really hard to pick against England. I've been so impressed with them in this tournament.
I have a problem with this idea that a team that has not been punched in the mouth is going to be A-okay if the U.S. goes up 1. I think if the U.S. goes up 1 early, then that whole idea of, oh, wow, they are really good. Oh, wow, they can't. I just think that it's there. And we've seen in every other sport this team that, oh, my God, they have so much talent across the board, but they haven't been able to break that barrier. And, their time's coming. Their time coming. The time doesn't come because they are dealing with a side that's just that much better than them.
I don't think that's the case. That's the thing, Nick, is I don't think they're that much better than them. I really don't.
All right, I think it comes down to options. And from a starting 11 standpoint, when they first get the game started, maybe so. Maybe that talent is pretty even. But when you start getting in the depths of the game, I feel like the U.S. has far more cards they can call on.
In the attack.
But you got to score goals to win the game, right? I mean,
yeah,
sure,
totally. But this is the thing, and this is what it comes down to for me for the U.S. is you have a front line of Tobin Heath, Alex Morgan, Megan Rapinoe. That's as good as it gets in the world. I mean, the Dutch front line is in the conversation, but that 3 is as good as it gets. You've got Carly Lloyd, Mallory Pugh. You've got Kristen Press. You can't play all 6 of them. And the questions for the U.S. are not there. The questions for the U.S. are in the midfield and in the back. And I feel like for England, defensively, they're a better team than the U.S. Is that going to be enough? We'll have to see. But I think the depth for the U.S. is very good, but I think it's in a very specific part of the field. And that kind of negates it.
Defenses can be absolute game changers until the unthinkable happens. Then you see overreactions. Then you see defenders getting pulled out of positional easier because they're so desperate to make that play. You see sloppy fouls tend to happen because they're so desperate to keep that second goal from coming in. If the U.S. scores early, I think it's going to be a runaway. But where you guys, I think, could be right is if England goes into half scoreless, it's their game to lose. If it goes into half scoreless, the U.S., in my opinion, must score early. If they don't score early, they are in for a dogfight they absolutely do not want. I still stick by 3-1. No problem, baby. No problem. 3-1.
We'll see. My pick, my prediction would be 2-1 or 3-2. I'm going to go 3-2 as my prediction after extra time for England. My hope is what Nick said. The U.S. gets an early goal and then makes England open up more than they're comfortable with. And then the U.S. firepower can take advantage of that. But I'm with Nick. It's got to be a goal in the first 30. If you don't get that, I think it's going to be more of a challenge. And I do worry as you get deep into a game, if you've got to fight for that result, one team's a lot fresher than the other.
Two things here. One, as you get deeper into this game and all these games, how much are you missing a certain defensive midfielder that Joe Ellis left home, potentially, to shore up what's going to be a tired defense late in the game. And for me, the second thing, I want to see how this game is called, because I could see this getting chippy as hell.
You want a scouting report on that?
You got a scouting report on that?
I got a scouting report on that, 'cause that's what I do.
We got the officials.
Edina Alves Batista from Brazil is your referee, and she had 2 of the China matches, not the China-Germany match, but she had the China-Spain match, and
that's worrying
one
already.
Yep, that was one where
China was already out there trying to murder everybody.
She called some fouls. She called a lot of fouls. She's issued 1 yellow card in the tournament. She's not going to use cards to keep it tight. It's going to be a very physical game. This is the biggest game she's ever had.
That's going to be interesting to me then, because I could see both teams kicking each other up and down the field, especially if she's not going to reach for cards early.
And I don't think in a dirty way either. I think it's just going to be a physically aggressive game. I think it's 2 teams who can scrap.
I mean, do you get a situation early in the game where, let's say, Lucy Bronze gets by Crystal Dunn and Dunn has to pull her back and get on an early yellow for a professional foul or something like that?
Well, coming into it, if you're scouting the referees, though, and you have a referee who is reluctant to throw cards, that makes you more willing to make that professional foul.
Yeah. I mean, just that was my concern with this game, is I want to see this game play out, and I'm hoping that continues then, and that she doesn't throw an early card to try and control the game, and that everybody else has to walk on pins and needles. I hope it's an open game where players are allowed to foul, not with the intent to injure, but where it's going to be a rough and tumble and physical game, because I think that plays into a really fun environment for everybody. Especially us, because, we're fans. As far as predictions go, look, I didn't think the U.S. would get this far. I thought France would beat them. I thought France would win the tournament.
You and me both.
Yeah, and at this point, I'm just going to ride and die with the American players at this, I think. And give me 3-1 U.S. with the third goal coming at garbage time, like the kind of goal where it's an open net on the other end because the British keeper is up trying in the box in the 93rd minute looking for that equalizer, and it falls to like Alex Morgan or somebody, and she just pushes it into the open goal from 50 yards out, that sort of thing. Not a fancy 3-1, a gut-wrenching 2-1 with USA getting that third goal at the very depth to put it to bed, with England getting chance upon chance and just either not putting it away or the USA defense just standing on its head as much as it can. And if they get through, I don't know what you have left for the final, because you get through this England game, it's kind of at this point, I'm like, I don't know what, because considering how physical as we expect this game to be, I don't know what the U.S. is going to have left in the tank, because they're just going to be, I think if they get through this, we're going to need to take a look back down the road and look at the road this team went down, going through a Spain team that's arrived, going through a French team that was the favorite in a lot of people's minds, and then potentially going through an England team that is damn good.
Look, the U.S. is the fittest team, the strongest team in the tournament from that perspective. They're going to have to be to get through this gauntlet.
And that's
can we say that this is?
Go ahead. Nick.
Oh, sorry.
Go for it.
I was going to say, can we agree that this is the last tournament where the U.S. fitness level is going to be the determinant factor in the World Cup winner? That this is probably one of the last tournaments where the U.S. bigger, stronger, faster has this much of a factor. That the other teams
should be.
It's more substantial.
You're going to see more teams that can compete on that level as well when you have more fully professional, more properly trained, all that type of stuff. I mean, that's the kind of matchup you're going to have tomorrow. This is an England team that can run and push and scrap and fight with the U.S. They're, I think, just as athletic, just as fast, just as strong. All of those things are right there, and it should be a great matchup because of that. But yeah, there's still, I think a second tier where you have some teams that just don't quite have that yet, and it shows. And I thought to a degree it showed in the Netherlands-Italy game. I think it's shown in some other knockout round games where there's just a bit of that difference in the physical side of the two teams as opposed to the technical side. And I think those gaps are going to get closed over time.
Nick, what has this run meant to Italy in the hopes that this is a continuous step forward for the women's national team? What has it meant from what you've been able to glean and what you've read and what you've been able to get feedback on?
It's absolutely for the ladies program. It's the moonshot. It really is, for them to go from struggle to finally getting there. I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine who's previously a pro ladies player, and she said Italy is where you go for your career to die. You'll love living there, but you're not going to go anywhere. You're not going to do anything. You're not going to get proper training. And now that's not the case. Unfortunately, for the entire country, there is still that women don't belong in football mentality. It's changing, though, and this run helped to change that. When you looked into the crowds, you saw, per usual, whenever the Italian men play, people in the blue jerseys screaming bloody murder during the national anthem, absolutely going nuts. Twitter was going nuts, and that is I'm struggling to find words of how much that has completely changed from where it was even 6 months ago. So yes, you had Roma, Juve, Milan, a couple of other women's teams that were trying to put stuff out there, but it's the moonshot. And for for Italy to come out and perform and play like an Italian team, where you couldn't tell if that was a men's team or a women's team, because the tactics were the same. The way they did things were the same. And that identity was there. That blueprint was there. Aggressive outside back, the back line being solid, tremendous goalkeeping, all hallmarks of a true Italian team. They were there. Fantastic counterattacks. I think Bonanseo, I think she just gassed out halfway through their run. But it's growing and it's building, and that's something that I have missed from the U.S. women's side, that sort of rocket ship belief. Now it's almost like, hey, just keep the ship going steady, right? We're good, we're great, just keep it moving. But to watch this Italian team and to watch even Spain, to watch Spain play and be like, wow, we're watching something special right now. Because with the Spanish team, you saw the same thing. A lot of the hallmarks of that Spanish identity coming through. And for a country like the U.S. that has so many issues defining what our identity is, the fact that Spain and Italy were able to transfer that identity directly down to the women's team without missing a beat and be successful doing so, to me, that speaks volumes of where they're at. And the fact that with proper funding and management and implementation of tactics, that anyone can be successful playing this game. That's what the Italian run proved to me. So it's but congrats to the Netherlands. They did what they had to do. I salute them. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I hope you lose horribly in your game. Thank you.
Wow,
that's mine.
You'd rather pull for Sweden, huh?
Hey, why not? Give me a reason why not to. I mean, I have no. If Frank de Boer's listening, Frank, deal with it. Because you knock my team out. I don't want you to win. It's the hater's ball. I will hate on you until you have nothing left. Right from the time I played t-ball, youth soccer. If you beat me, if your team beat my team, I hated on you until you had nothing left. Right? There's no reason why can't I have a 3-car garage? Why can't I have a fine German automobile, fine Italian automobile in my driveway? Why can't I have that? No, I hate. And so Netherlands, crash out. Do what you need to do and crash out just like the men's team does.
That's really harsh.
That's what they need to do. If we're talking about carrying systems all the way through, then the Dutch need to do what the Dutch system is, which is possess, crash out of the tournament. That's the Dutch style, and I see nothing different happening here with the women.
So you're listening to ABBA a lot this week.
Oh, ABBA. Yeah, I introduced the Duchess to ABBA. And
excellent play.
Yeah, it is. She is, of course, Dancing Queen is number 1. Gimme, Gimme, Gimme is at 2. And she is trying to learn the band members' names. Since she is 2, she's having trouble differentiating the fact that ABBA is the band name and not just their names. So she looks at the guy and she's like, ABBA. To the ladies, ABBA. I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. There you go. So yeah,
Frida, Agneta, Benny, and Bjorn.
Hey, we're all in. I'm not. We're playing no games in this household. The Dutch are going down.
Okay.
Sorry, Frank. It's the belief. It's the belief system. But enough about me and my unbridled hatred for people who are trying to do wonderful things to uplift their culture and their sport in general. Guys, what are some things? Let's go ahead and shift this focus, to the MLS for a moment. And our good boy Zlatan. And can we get an over-under on the likelihood that Zlatan is back with the Galaxy next year?
It's low. It's pretty low. They've got issues they got to figure out right now, because they really want to sign Cristiano Pavón. And now we are back at the stage where you're getting headlines like Paul Tenorio or Sam Stagecall.
Am I in a time loop?
No, Sam Stagecall just posted this an hour ago. Sources, LA Galaxy, exploring ways to fit Boca Juniors' Cristiano Pavón on roster. There's
time is a
3
flat
designated
circle.
players. That's all you can have, and you can't have a 4th one. And if you're going to pay $12 million to get 50% of Christian Pavon's pass. He's a designated player. And Zlatan is not being bought down because he's making a stupid amount of money. Roman Alessandrini could potentially be bought down. He is on your injured reserve right now. But last time he didn't want to do that. And Jonathan Dos Santos is not being bought down. So I don't know. And if you get Pavon, then I wonder how's all this going to work. I don't know.
Four to make three.
Yeah, don't remember Atlanta supposedly looking at a certain Venezuelan player as well?
That was debunked pretty fast.
That was debunked pretty quickly.
Yeah,
Jefferson.
I would just like to say I'm wondering what's going to happen with this the new collective bargaining agreement, where if they change the rules where the transfer fee doesn't factor in to the designated player status. I wonder. That could be very nice.
You gotta, first off, with the collective bargaining agreement and negotiations, avoid the strike potential. That would be number one.
Yes.
Please, because every other league is staring down the gun barrel of a strike or a lockout. There's a non-zero chance that in a few years in the summer you'll be the only game in town in American sports.
Yeah, don't be that league.
Yeah, I can safely say that I have not paid to go to a baseball game since 1994. I can safely say that. I do not. It just, to me, the baseball strike. I love what they did as far as
right there with you
players. Yeah, it's just, to me, your sport. You should be able to, between billionaires and millionaires, figure out how to make it work. Now, in MLS, 1.0 moving to 2.0, I get it. The players were desperately needing pay raises. I understand that. There's no reason now that these two sides can't come together. And if somebody like Kroenke or Kraft says we are absolutely not going to allow for more charters, and we're not going to bump the designated player rule up one or a certain amount of allocation money, and it goes to strike, I hope to God before that happens, Garber steps in and says, okay, you chuckleheads need to bounce, because I feel that it would cripple. There's too many other options, not like MLB, not like NFL. There's too many other options out there from a competitive marketplace within soccer that I can go and turn on the Premier League on weekends. I can go and turn on La Liga. There is that gap, though, that MLS during the summer fits. And if you wreck that, I don't know if there's any coming back from it, but I hope that gets worked out. Side note, I also will go with, I think, little chance that our boy Zlatan comes back. I just think that I don't foresee him or his representation, if they don't win a title this year, dramatic pause, allowing the great Zlatan to hang out in MLS much longer. It doesn't help his brand, Well,
what brand is he going to have? Like, where's he going to go next?
Right, but guys...
Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
UAE.
Yeah.
But he's won more
China.
titles than those leagues all combined.
He hadn't conquered that continent, though.
Nope.
Good for him. Bye.
Yeah, pretty much.
But I used to work in radio, and we ran into several musicians who still thought that they were top-level entertainment, even though it had been 2 decades since the last time a radio station probably played their number one track. I'm
hoping there's names about to be named.
There will not be, unfortunately.
Oh, man.
What do they rhyme with?
There will not be names. I will tell you. That.
Do a Darren Eels like description.
There are people who are listening who know who I'm talking about. So I know. This is the one time you're ever going to hear me cop out, because there are friendships on the line.
That's okay.
I will say that. But I will tell you, we've seen it. It happens. Zlatan, his brand exists in his mind.
Uh-huh.
And as long as he continues to believe that brand is there for him, then he's going to believe that he's bigger than MLS. And that's not the case. Because how many titles have the Galaxy won since he arrived? 0. Do they look like they're any closer to winning a title with Zlatan on the field? Guys, I'm going to say no. Feel free to correct me.
I think that's a no, Jerry.
Yeah. So, to me, it's something where I don't believe Zlatan is going to allow himself to toil away in MLS for a team that's not competitive. He made the mistake of picking a market instead of a team. And so he's paying the price for that right now.
Because he could show up on Jimmy Kimmel and make yuck jokes.
Well, yeah, it's exactly it. I want to be on Kimmel. I want to be in LA. I want to be close to Rodeo Drive. I want, to turn into Zlatan land and all this, but he failed. He can't single-handedly carry this team. There were times that he drove Milan up to a top 4 position. There were times that he carried, Inter to a top 4, position and made him competitive. He didn't do that really at Barcelona. But,
no, because he got questioned and he actually was told to do different things and not be just about Zlatan, and he didn't want any part of that.
No, and he still believes that his knee injury was what slowed him down, and not the fact that Father Time is undefeated. So I wish him the best. I just don't think he's going to be back with the Galaxy next year. Guys, let's take a commercial break, and we will come back. We will get into a little bit of other shenanigans. I will finally give my take on Maurizio Sarri being at Juve and what is happening right now in the city of Naples.
Looking forward to hearing Mr. Leafy's take on what has transpired with my new job, and looking forward to hearing what he has to say.
Well, thank you so much, Maurizio. You're such a good guy. Really cut back on the cigarettes.
Until he says something bad, then we're going to have it out after the show is over.
Well, that's fine. But Mauricio, understand you smoke 30 cigarettes a day, my guy. So all I have to do is dance around you 2 or 3 times, and you'll probably collapse on your own. So
Chelsea caused me to do 36. It wasn't pretty.
That's right. That's what happens. When you work for a team that's getting a 2-window ban, and we'll talk about them as well. Soccer over there. Nick, Jason, John, Jared_Smith. Be right back.
A ranger station.
I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
I put out my campfire and Smokey Bear hugged me.
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but he's just letting you know you did good.
Bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
I'm gonna let you go now. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service, Ad Council, and your state forester.
As a business owner, you know that every year brings new challenges and opportunities. The success of your business demands expertise and focus. And Country Financial can help you keep that focus by helping ensure you have the right insurance protection in place to meet your goals. Jason Wright can help you create a customized insurance plan that has coverages designed just for your business. Give Jason a call at 678-568-6871 or reach him on Facebook at Jason Wright Agency. Coverages vary by state. Policies issued by Country Mutual Insurance Company, Bloomington, Illinois.
This is what matters. This is beyond X's and O's. This is the difference mutual respect makes. This is what character looks like. This is what defines us in Georgia. This is sportsmanship. School sports. It's not the outcome that matters most, but the way the games are played. This message presented by the Georgia High School Association and the Georgia Athletic Directors Association.
If you've been hurt in a car wreck, contact my friend Steve Apolinsky of Apolinsky & Associates. He's been representing individuals for over 30 years throughout Georgia and Alabama. Email him at steve@aa-legal.com or call him 24/7 at 404-377-9191. The initial consultation is free.
Soccer over there, July 1st, and I feel like I have to play the role of Tony Reale stat boy on this one. There was a claim made in the last segment about how many cigarettes Maurizio Sarri smoked a day, and I think the number was 36 that was given on this show. Does that sound right? Did I get that right?
Briefly, because of what the players made me do and
the
goalkeeper.
Maurizio, shut up, because that's just 100% incorrect. There was recently an article in the Mirror that Maurizio Sarri revealed how many cigarettes he does smoke a day, and he told La Nueva Riviera, "I smoke 60 a day, which is probably a few too many."
5-pack a day smoker?
Many. I smoke 60 a day. That is what Maurizio Sarri said. I don't particularly feel the need to smoke during games, but straight afterwards it really is necessary. I had back problems tormenting me for weeks, but I feel much better now. And Chelsea never delivered on the smoking room that they were going to build for them.
5-pack a day smoker. That is some serious movement.
60.
Okay, so
60.
12 in a case, right? Like when you go to the it's either 10 or 12. I can't remember. But let's say it's 12. 12 when you buy a case of cigarettes. That means that in a week, you will have smoked, 7 times 5, so 35. You will have gone through basically 3 cases of smokes a week. That's like $90.
It's a lot.
It's like $100 a week in smokes. So
it's
$5,000 a year just in cigarettes.
Guys, he's also downing enough espresso to power Colombia for a month. So
there's also that. Yeah. Sarri also said, and this is a pretty good one to lead us into Nick's thoughts about Maurizio moving to Juve. He said, of course, Maurizio Sarri loves the tracksuit, right? That's his normal outfit.
Yes. That's his thing.
I prefer not to wear a Juventus suit on the pitch. Off the pitch, when I represent Juventus, I am obliged to wear it, and it is written in my contract. But on the pitch, I would prefer not to, but we will discuss it. The important thing at my age is they don't ask me to go naked.
Yes.
There we go.
Yes.
That's peak energy right there.
That's
mental images I never needed, Alex.
Oh, my God.
Thank you, Maurizio.
So if you can't tell by the background noise, I've been forced to go mobile. So thanks for dealing with the random vehicle noises in the background.
There's other reports that are saying he smokes 80 to 100 cigarettes a day. So I don't even know. 60 might be on the low side.
See, that's almost like a case. That's like a case a day. That's wow. And I bet you he's as fit as a fiddle and can run a sub 4-minute marathon.
No.
I don't know about that one.
None of that's true.
Dude, I've known smokers, but Nick, I'll let you get to your Sarri discussion here in a sec. But I've known smokers who are in the the peak fitness of health, and they will go out and do road races, and the second they stop smoking, their fitness goes right in the dumper.
That's probably because their mucus glands start performing normally again, and once that happens, then they realize they are, choking half to death on the amount of with 6 years worth of phlegm that's been building up. So there's that. It's rather disgusting, but you got to deal with it if you're smoking. Put down the cigarettes, Maurizio. Put down the cigarettes, my guy.
It's not going to happen. Just make sure that I'm not going to be naked.
Yes, exactly. So as far as Maurizio goes, I want this move to work because Sarri is a guy who I think, if barring physical health issues, could be huge for Italy overall. He's a guy who could lead the Italian national team. He's a guy who could put Serie A even more on the map than it already is. I was hoping he was going to do that with Napoli. Clearly that didn't work out. But he was a man who didn't have to buy a drink in the city of Naples, regardless, for whatever reason, even when he went to Chelsea. But now, Napoli has put out a fan video of what the fans thanking Maurizio. And if you notice subtly, they're dropping these almost look like the little devil horns, right? That's a curse. They're cursing him. So,
man,
they're like, "Oh, good luck. We wish you the best." Oh, you see the little devil horns, the little two fingers. No, they're cursing him. They in no way. This is like when Gonzalo Higuain left Napoli and went to Juve. They made toilet paper with Gonzalo's face on it. They made statuettes of him with devil horns. They, name it. Like, there are various things let's say that the devil and Maurizio, and Gonzalo were in a quote unquote relationship, shall we say? You're seeing all of that now with our man Maurizio, and that's how Naples runs. Naples is on a different ball game. When you get south of Rome, it's a more old school environment.
Hey Nick, may I interrupt for just a second?
Please.
We have breaking news.
Yes.
I'm going to hit the bell again. I found a new noise on the new one.
Oh, there we
found
go.
a bell.
Emerson
All right.
Hyndman is now a part of Atlanta United. It is official.
Whoa.
It's been officially announced.
There it is.
And Emerson Hyndman, part of the 2015 U20 team of the tournament, former Premier League player, former Scottish Premier League player, is part of Atlanta United.
So let's go ahead and run with that because I think people don't really care about my take on Maurizio Sarri at this point.
How do you think he's going to do at Juve?
I think he will do well, but there are things that are out of his control. He's walking into an older Juve squad. Chiellini's about 147 years old. Bonucci will be replaced if De Ligt actually comes in. They actually finalize that transfer. And they're going to have to reacquire Gonzalo Higuain's contract, which is supposed to be happening. He does not want to go to Roma. He does not want to go anywhere else. He only wants to stay with Juve. Yet again, proving he's the Carmelo Anthony of international soccer, where the pay does not remotely meet what his ability is. He's got to deal with that in the locker room. So I think they're going to win the Scudetto again this year, but I think Inter is going to be the team who closes the gap. So the end is certainly closer than they would like. So that's my take. He'll win it, but they will not win Champions League. Go ahead and carve it in stone. I don't think it's going to happen for them this year. That's my too early prediction. Unless they get the elite, and then I'm willing to walk that back. According to you guys, with this new acquisition, Mr. Longshore, your immediate thoughts?
I like it a lot.
Yep.
I think he's a perfect fit for the way that Atlanta United plays. When you're talking about a player who people were writing this after his performances in 2015, where he was a captain of the U.S. team at the U20 World Cup, not just a good player in the group. He was a captain, and Nick, you'll know how much praise this is for a player, and you won't remember the end of the career that he's been compared to. People have called him the American Andrea Pirlo. He's that kind of player when you look at his range of passing, you look at his comfort level on the ball, you look at what he can bring to the table. Now, he went to Fulham. Fulham was relegated. He went to Bournemouth, which I think was the wrong place for him to go. Didn't get any time. Went out on loan to Rangers and did really well. Went on loan to Hibs and I think did well. Never really got much of a shake at Bournemouth, although everything that was ever said by the club and by management was that they really liked him. Just never really got an opportunity. When you have a player who is known for working hard, intelligent, scrappy defender, and an unbelievable passer, well, I think you landed in the right spot.
So when we have this, and I want everyone to understand that I'm not going player to player for comparisons here. But if you look for that Milan side that was so devastating through the 90s, early 2000s. You had Pirlo in the middle, a midfielder who could put passes anywhere on a dime. You had an absolute warlord, counterattack killer in Gattuso. And you had an all-around midfielder with Ambrosini. Somebody who could really do it all. He could pass, he could defend, he could do it all. Look at this Atlanta United midfield. And I'm not going player to player, but look at just the general DNA of the players who they just brought in. Right? So you have Nagby. You have now Inman, and you have our boy Rometty. What does Rometty do?
Eats up ground.
Okay. All right. That sounds familiar. Okay. Out of Nagby and Emerson, who would you say is the more out-and-out, do-everything midfielder?
Nagby would be a little more that way, although Hyman can do that too.
Okay. And then you have another guy who could put passes anywhere they want. That sounds to me like the makeup of a very, very successful midfield right there.
We have the particulars.
You got a lot of flexibility. We'll get to that in 1 second. The thing about this addition, does he walk into the lineup? No. Could he? I think he's got the ability to, but you've got the flexibility now to play Rometty, Nagby, Hyman together if you want to go three central midfielders and two of what could be two of the best passers in the league together. All of them could play any of the roles, too. That's what's interesting about it. It almost feels like the Chilean group of central midfielders when Carmona was coming up and Vidal and that whole group that could all play the 6, the 8, the 10 and just rotate it during a match. But you could also play two of them with a true number 10 like a Barco in there or Gressel in there. Look, the competition for spots just got more intense. And when you look at the numbers, and John's got the particulars of the deal within the league to get him, he's on loan from Bournemouth. But to get his rights in the league, it wasn't cheap.
Deal includes the option for Atlanta to purchase the loan expiration at the end of the season. The discovery rights were in a trade with SC Dallas in exchange for an international roster slot in 2019 and 2020, in addition to $200,000 in GAM officially added to the club's roster once the secondary transfer window opens July 9th. And then we have the quote from Carlos Bocanegra, and then it goes into his history.
Yeah, I mean, we've got that, and the quote is what you would expect. I mean, he's highlighting the technical side, the on-the-ball stuff, but also his performance in physically demanding leagues like the Scottish Premier League and the Scottish Premiership and the English Championship. $200,000 in GAM for a player that you're getting on loan for 6 months with the option to purchase it at the end. That feels like a move that you're going to make permanent. Unless it just absolutely doesn't work out. And hey, these things do happen. You never know. But that is a pretty steep price for someone's rights. And there had been some speculation about if Dallas still held his rights or what. This is a nice price that they get for a player who signed with Fulham at 15.
Well, let's talk about a minute about that flexibility. The option to buy is not an obligation to buy. Did I hear that correctly?
Correct.
So let's just go into the land of make believe here. If you are a team president, general manager, if you want to go through and say, hey, we have a couple of players who may be on their way out just because of attrition. It happens, right? It's not saying that players perform badly, anything like that. Some players have value. Some players want to move. You now have tremendous flexibility with your team where you're not going to have a tremendous drop-off in talent. It's not like you have one bad offseason rather, and now, oh my God, we have to completely rebuild a midfield if we lose a player or two. Will there be a drop-off? Sure. But now you have flexibility. You can activate that option. You can keep them here. I think that's phenomenal business yet again by Atlanta United. And I'm not saying that just because I'm in the city. I love options to buy. Obligations to buy tell me that you don't necessarily have as much money to play with as you want to, and you have to stretch out the payment plan perhaps.
Right.
But the option to buy gives you so much flexibility, a chance to test drive the player, see if it's a good fit for everybody involved. And salute to them, because this is a player that a lot of people wanted, and here he is in stripes.
Yeah, it's a player that I think people have been waiting to see make that next step, and it felt like the last year was a little bit of a disappointment because he had that good run at Rangers, and it just didn't really progress from there. I think Jared
he was the
still
best player on that
Rangers.
team.
Yeah, tell us about his time at Rangers.
He's the best player on that team at the second half of the season, John. I don't know how much you saw him during that phase, but he was that Rangers team was being nutmegged by a child.
I'm not a child, you bitch.
Not by a child, I'm assuming.
No.
Yeah, I think he just got a yellow card for dissent, Jarrett.
That's right. I just gave a red card for someone throwing a soccer ball at me. This has been an eventful
abuse.
That's a handball from close range. It has to be a red.
It really is. Everyone in this house watches too much Scottish football. Hyndman was the best player on that Rangers team. Was the best player on that Rangers team for the second half of the season while he was there on loan, and that team was up and down. I mean, you got to remember that is in the middle of coming back from administration, but he was very impressive, got forward really well, and was really talented for that team. So if that's what he gives you, it's a coup. It's an option to buy at the end of it. Hey, you lost $100,000 in Gant Day, like net. Not a bad day considering what you got.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he played 17 matches with Rangers during his time there, scored 4 goals, had 4 assists in league and cup play. And that was where it looked like, okay, things are about to pop off for Emerson Hyndman. And then the 2017-18 season, he made 4 appearances for Bournemouth. It just never happened for him. Last season, he spent a large portion of it on loan at Hibs and played 19 times across all competitions with them. Had a goal. No assists were marked for him, according to Transfermarkt. Played a little over 1,000 minutes with Hibs, and then went back to Bournemouth at the end of the season and played in the Premier League with them for the second time as a substitute. So it just hasn't ever clicked for him yet at Bournemouth, and maybe this is the way for him to get that playing time, because this is a player who has 2 caps with the senior national team, a former captain of the U20s, a player who was a highlight at the 2015 U20 World Cup, and a player who has played in really all facets of the midfield. He's played out wide a little bit, but he's mostly been in that kind of 8 role. Now, in Frank de Boer's system, I don't think there's as big of a jump between playing that and playing the 6. We've seen Darlington Nagbe play centrally quite often with Gressel and Remedi on either side of him. I could see Hyndman in that kind of role.
So would you push Barco out up top to the left?
Depends on what you want to do. I think you could see games where that happens. You could see Barco and Pitti on either side of Joseph in the front 3 with a midfield that is just going to boss a game on the ball with Hyndman, Remedi, and Nagbe. You could see situations where you go with 2 of them and play Barco centrally and play when Tito Villalba's in the mix. You could play Gressel out wide. Gressel's going to be fighting for time out wide and centrally as well. He's not going to come in and walk straight into the team, because I think you look back at 18-19 where he played in 20 games. I mean, that's not a ton, and he's had some time off. He's going to bolster this team, and I think he will push everyone for time, whether it's at the 6, the 8, or even the 10 to a degree. But it's going to be, again, just like Justin Merrim when he came in. You're increasing the overall level of the squad and creating internal competition, which will make everything stronger. And his characteristics, from what I can tell, really fit the team to a T.
Also, playing in England and Scotland helps in terms of if you had questions about his frame. He's a bit smaller guy. He survived up there just fine. and it's very unforgiving physically, and not just in terms of the physicality of the game itself, it's very physical and unforgiving sometimes, but also environmentally, fields aren't always great. Like he's handled some rough situations, and he not only did he survive them, he thrived in them at times. If he can recover that, you're in really good shape.
Yeah, and again, going back to the options, when you have scheduled where you have Open Cup and then regular season play as we move past the All-Star break, you're going to need bodies. You're going to need people who can come in and play. And this does not sound. Jason, you said he may not walk right into the lineup, but he's somebody who knows how to possess a ball, and he's somebody who knows how to distribute. And if you're Frank DeBoer and you need to slot somebody in, that doesn't sound like that bad of a fit to me.
You've got 17 league matches left. You've got a Open Cup quarterfinal on the 10th, and he would be eligible to play in that if he's fit. You've got a Campeones Cup match that is a little inconvenient in terms of where it falls in the schedule. This is another player that can help you out with that. You're looking at potentially an Open Cup semifinal, an Open Cup final, playoffs. Roughly, if you get to everywhere you want to be, you're talking 24, 25 more matches. You're going to need bodies. And he is a fit in terms of the type of player he is. I think he is a great fit, and he's domestic. He's not going to take up international slots. Why you can trade that slot to Dallas for the next 2 years really makes a lot of sense. And the fact that he was available, I think it's another good bit of business from the front office. And now he's got to push his way in and earn playing time.
Rachel Affleck on Twitter, who is listening in with our breaking news, she's curious when does Nagbe's contract expire? If at the end of this year, might a trade be in the offing with the Hyndman signing? Transfermarkt has the contract expiring New Year's Eve of this year.
Yeah, I mean, the end of the year would be typical. If that's accurate, yeah, it gives you more flexibility. It gives you a lot of flexibility. And according to Transfermarkt, Hyndman's deal is up through June 30, 2020. So I think that's why you have that option to buy at the end of the MLS season, which would be 6 months out from his contract being up, if Transfermarkt is correct. When it comes to MLS, it can get a little tricky because you don't know what kind of options are on a contract. If Nagbe's got an option after this year, we don't really know that stuff until we get there. It gives you flexibility. I mean, you're going to have, I think, a potentially good bit of turnover after this season. Because you've had a lot of guys who have been here from day one, and that's a 3-year deal. I don't know how many guys are on deals longer than 3 years guaranteed. I think you're probably going to have a lot of option decisions, and you're going to have some guys who are going to have to sign a new deal. If you add more talent like this into the mix, you just have options.
And it's one of those things as a general manager, if you're looking at a team president, and if you're looking at, when these agents sit across from you and say, hey, here's what it's going to take to keep my player. You have to have my player. My player is critical and vital to the success of this team. You can now look and say, we have flexibility. That's what I mean anyway by flexibility, is that you could sit there and say, well, Mr. Agent, actually on further review, we have a couple of players who can do what your client does. So why don't we go ahead and does your client really want to be here in town, or do we need to seek out maybe a different environment for your client? Now, that's business, and that's what this is. It's all business. So yeah, it's something where it's okay to have those conversations. It works out. That's part of the business, and that's part of doing transactions like this, because you want the team to have flexibility as much as there's something that we want to keep. I enjoyed this thoroughly, but I have to bounce a little early. I hope you guys are okay with that and can carry the show. You have breaking news now you can run with. Enjoy it all.
We can run with lots of things, Nick. We appreciate it, though.
All the Euro.
All the mucha, and especially all the Euro. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Good night.
That's Nick Alifi on his way out. Hopefully he can get back into his place all kinds of chaos
Give it a
going
couple
on
days.
in the Alifi household. But I think he's going to end up being all right. I think it's going to work out. Let's get into any more tweets we have about Emerson Hyndman or anything else going on as we wrap up a Soccer Over There episode.
And it appears that the substitution has happened with the red card and the sending off in the Jared_Smith household.
That's typical.
Katie Weaver, glad for the Hyndman edition. Hooper Darren already has emojis, apparently. But what does this mean for Kratz, and who else may be getting nervous on the squad?
Well, Kratz, I mean, he hasn't played, so... And it didn't sound like last time we heard about Kevin Kratz, it didn't sound like he was close to playing anytime soon, so... I don't know. I mean, at the age and with the injury this season, I think it's difficult to see Kevin Kratz back next year. But again, you never know. It's so hard to even say because contract situations are not public. Transfermarkt is a pretty good estimate of when contracts are up in MLS, but it's not 100%. And you don't know what options are being held. You don't know if it's a club option, a player option, a mutual option. All of the above are possible. So it's really hard to say. I mean, I just look at it from a depth chart situation where you've got a player now who can slot in as a 6 or an 8. I think he's played mostly as an 8. I think he can play as a 6 in this system. I think if you're talking about a team that's going to dominate possession, you can have him slot into that type of role, and I think he's a smart enough defender to be able to deal with any issues that arise. I mean, you're talking about, just from a comparison standpoint around the league, you're talking about a Michael Bradley, Will Trapp kind of strong passing defensive midfielder. And in this system, that's what you need. That's what you're looking for. So it just gives you another weapon. And when you look at the last two major moves that this team's made, you go out and you get Justin Merrim, who was seen as one of the best players in Major League Soccer at the end of 2017 and went for a huge transfer money haul from Orlando to Columbus going into 2018. You get him after he has a rough year and a half. You get Emerson Hyndman in on loan for the rest of this season with an option to buy, who had kind of a rough year at Bournemouth this year and didn't get the time that I think he probably hoped he would. So, but you're getting two guys who are very talented and I think have something to prove. So you add that to a championship team, a championship roster, and you're only getting better. I mean, when you compare these types of moves to moves that some other teams around the league have made and are making, you're talking about a different level of talent coming in. It's noticeable. So I'm excited to see it. I want to see how fast it gets, for him, how fast he can get on the field. You'd love it with that Open Cup quarterfinal coming up next week on Wednesday. You'd love it if he's fit enough to contribute in that, because that's the one that really falls in a weird spot with all of these games over the next month. You'd love to have him available to be able to take up some of those minutes.
Yeah, and according to Transfermarkt, they have a comparable players section for players that they have in their database. The top 3 comparable players for Emerson Hyndman: Marky Delgado, Toronto FC; Jackson Ewell, San Jose; Russell,
that's a really good one.
Russell Knaus, DC United.
I don't see the Knaus one at all. I disagree with that one, because Knaus is a player who needs to be better on the ball. Hyman's coming from the opposite side, where he is great on the ball. That's not the negative side of his game. And I don't even know if, honestly, defensively is a negative side of his game. I think it's more of, people have thought that would be the case because he's not the biggest guy, but he's just a strong soccer player. So there was a really good profile done on him over at Outside of the Boot, which is a great resource for reports on up-and-coming players. And this was from March of 2017 after he was making a name for himself at Rangers and really turning some heads. I want to give you some of the description about how he plays. They call him a prototypical deep-lying playmaker, hence the dramatic but not fraudulent nickname of the American Andrea Pirlo. He can also play as a box-to-box midfielder when needed, as he did at times for Fulham. He has played in various formations, such as a 4-3-3, a 4-4-2, 4-2-3-1. He is the engine of the team. In his highly technical position, Hyndman will stay further back on the pitch, despite his impressive goal tally for Rangers, where he had 4 in about 17 matches, only flying forward towards goal when necessary. He conducts teammates forward, and he is often the transition from defensive action to attack. We talk transition a lot. Keep that in mind. When he does move into an attacking area, he will hang in or around zone 14, which is outside of the penalty area centrally, ready to hit any rebound attempts or stifle any counterattacks. Very technical. Great passer, can play in tight spaces, and defensively, he can flip the switch in his transition from offense to defense, defense to offense. So that's what you're looking for here. When you talk about those characteristics and you talk about the way Atlanta United plays, it makes sense that this would be a player you would go get.
And for the first time since August 10th of 2018, when it was announced, he reached out on Twitter and said, can't wait to get started with the red dot and the black dot and at Atlanta United.
Excellent. I don't think it's the red dot and the red black dot. You could just say the red and black.
Okay. Red circle, black circle. According to Twitter, that's what they call them.
Okay.
It's like me and landlines.
Pretty much.
We are officially caught up on the Twitters with responses. Of course, everybody is still trying to figure out what Darren's tweet was all about. But predictions, HEOUTD fan number 1 agrees on 3-1 for the women's national team. And Joe Bost is saying the U.S. women's national team wins 3-2 in overtime.
I had a couple people reach out to me and ask about Hyndman, and I just said I love his passing ability. He feels like a great fit for Atlanta's style of play. Euphonious Bugnuts, who listens to the show, said he'll have a hard time displacing Remedi or Nagbe in the starting lineup. I think he'll push. I think he'll push for time. And
that's what you want.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing is when you look at this, I don't think you're expecting him to walk in and start day one. I think you're looking at him to be able to play minutes and give you depth in a position that you don't really have a ton with Kevin Kratz's injury. So now you have Jeff Lorenowitz, who profiles definitely more as a true 6. You have Remedi, who can play the 6 or the 8. You have Nagbe, who's most comfortable as the 8, but can play a 10 in a pinch, and can play a 6 in a pinch. I think Hyndman's a little more comfortable playing the 6. He can play the 8. That's where he's probably most comfortable. I think he can play the 10 a little bit. So you've got all of that along with your Barcos and your Gressels and your Pitties, who are probably more comfortable on the 10 side of it. Gressel can give you some as the 8 as well. And you've got a lot of flexibility in your midfield, and you can mix and match based off your opponent and based off where your form is. That's what you want. You have one more talented player coming in to push for time. That's a good thing, and that's going to keep everyone fresh. And that's the other thing you're looking for in this type of run of games.
And that's, I mean, to me, those are the two big points. You're bringing in a talented player who has been eyeballed, looked at, whatever phrase you want to see, circled. Yeah, we want this guy. He's going to help push the guys who are already here. He's going to help with the schedule compression and all these matches. You came up with the number 25, so you're talking at least 24 matches by the end of the year. And to have this kind of reinforcements, that's the kind of reinforcements that you're looking for.
Yes, and I do agree with some of the thoughts that when you're giving up $200,000 in GAM for his rights, I don't think you're getting him just on a look-see. I think you have a plan here, which also means I don't think you have to rush him into time either. I think the idea is if everything goes according to plan, you will make that transfer permanent, and he will be part of your squad next year. if this year he is more of a bench player, rotation, that might be the case with guys like Nagbe and Remedi and Gressel and Lorenowitz and Barco and Pitti and the rest of the crowded midfield. He's going to push for that time. And I don't think he's going to make it easy for guys to keep their spots. I think he's going to push. And I think that's what you need this time of year and what you need with the challenges that Atlanta United has coming up.
And we will be talking. Is Jared still here?
Nope.
Is Jared with us?
He got red carded.
Okay. He got red carded. Okay. So obviously we'll be talking about this in the morning and a bunch of other things. And so it'll be, I think I know what Tuesday Thoughts will be led with anyway.
There will probably be quite a few, and we will get into that in the morning, 9 o'clock. If you can join us live, share your thoughts on Twitter at SoccerDownHere about this move and anything else on your mind. We've got a lot of USA England discussion planned as well. We will actually talk about the game, and we will actually talk about pros and cons of the two teams. Yes, I know it's crazy to actually do that. We're going to do that in the morning. So
the arrogance.
To it. What?
The arrogance of us actually talking about the match.
Yes, that's arrogant to talk about
yes.
the game itself. So we are totally arrogant. We will be that.
Yes.
But we're going to talk about the match and get you set for it because it's a massive one. And anything else that pops up between now and then. Thanks, everybody, for listening. All the lira.
Mucha lira, y'all.